Revelation. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. Next time. And who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Talk, you mocking pretender. I check your lyrics and I come for test you. Far too long, you're fooling the children, filling the head with brainwash education. Doomsday reach, boy, pan the retreat, cause the children coming to take back the street. The power of the word in the conscious styling. Paving the way for a brand new morning. I say the power of the word in the rap so styling. Rocking the roots of the vampire system. Talk, you mocking pretender. Talk, you bloody deceiver. Talk, you serpent master. Talk, you friggin' oppressor. Ah, la da di da 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 da. La da di da da da. La da di da 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 da. La da di da da da. La da di da da da. La da di da 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 da. Right down to the heart of the matter where reality bites and illusion shatter. Right down to the heart of the matter, desire go bust and reality scatter. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. Next time. And who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Talk, you mocking pretender. Check your lyrics and I come to test you. Far too long, you're fooling the children, filling the head with brainwash education. Doomsday reach, plan your retreat. The children coming to take back the street. The power of the word in the conscious styling. I say the power of the word in the rap so styling. Rocking the roots of the vampire system. Talk, you mocking pretender. Talk, you bloody deceiver. Talk, you serpent master. Talk, you friggin' oppressor. Going right down to the heart of the matter. Chatter. What is the matter? I can't seem to stop this ceaseless chatter. Chatter. Only wrong in my head. Oh Lord, like they want me to dead. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Oh my God, what really happening? Chatter. What is the matter? Chatter. The ceaseless chatter. Going right down to the heart of the matter. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Listen to yourself. Everybody talking, nobody listening. And nobody listening. Yes, it's only talk. Revelation vibes. Read your Bible.
Well. Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. You are looking live at the Progressive Empowerment Party's live with the political leader, Phillip Alexander. Good night, Mr. Alexander. How are you?
Good night, Mr. Welch. I think I am fine on this very rainy, frightening, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's a difficult time to be a Trinidadian. Sorry for looking down. I was sharing the link to the 10 million WhatsApp people I have supporting me. 10, 100 million, billion, trillion. Bella would say 1,110,000. We have a lot of people who follow. And I was just sharing to them the link. Those of you who are watching us live, good night. Wherever you are in the world, good night. If you could please take a minute to share this live video with everybody you know. We're going to touch on some important issues. And it is time for us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to start to row the collective boat in one direction, to sing from the same hymnal, to preach from the same holy book. The analogies go on and on and on. The name of the show is A Flood of Crime, which is a juxtaposition of the two major issues affecting people who can't afford to live, who can't afford to eat, who can't afford to shop, who can't afford to put their children in proper schools, who can't afford to get sick. I want to start there. Tomorrow morning, my mother is having surgery at a private hospital because the public hospitals are not good enough for public officials. The Minister of Health, the Prime Minister, none of them would go to the public hospitals. They know something that I don't. They're in charge of fixing it. It's up to them to make it work. And if they have no faith in what they're responsible for, if I go to a restaurant and the chef's eating anywhere but there, I'm not eating there. So the public health system in Trinidad and Tobago has been served a damning indictment by every Prime Minister we've ever had, but especially this current one. And this Minister of Health who's boasting the best healthcare in the world, his families go outside. So anyway, my mother's having surgery tomorrow. And that surgery, just the surgery, is costing us $150,000. Thankfully, she has children who can fight up, scrape up, put aside other things they might have want to spend their money on and pay for it. I'm saying that personal, private business because healthcare in Trinidad is driving a lot of people to choose between survival and death, to choose between their loved ones and being able to live another month for themselves. And that is the insanity of voting PNM, UNC. And those of you who hear that and say, you're right when you say PNM, but you're not right when you say UNC, you're not yet arrived at the truth.
Sure.
Because the truth will tell you that it doesn't take 5 years to fix a country that already has a lot of the required infrastructure. You see, we have a general hospital. It's to make it work. We didn't need 900 more. A hospital is a collection of different things. What we use hospitals for in Trinidad is really accident and emergency, casualty. We run there in an emergency. Those could be built separate and apart from the hospital. Anyway, let me just say to those of you who love me, please keep my mother in your prayers. No medical procedure is a simple one. And half my mind is there. I just came off a conference call with the doctor. And half my mind is there. So to those of you who did not know and wanted to know, because I said a couple days ago, I might be taking a sabbatical. And if I do, it's for a couple weeks to be with my family and my mom while she recovers. So yeah, but wind it back to everything else. Wind it back to those who today, there are hundreds of thousands of people in this country that health care is a massive issue for. But they sit alone and stew in their own problems without understanding that if they were to raise their voices, other people would say, it's not just me? You mean it's not just me that have to wait 2 years to get a very important procedure? It's not just me that when I went to the doctor for the scheduled procedure or surgery or whatever, the nurse didn't show up, or the doctor didn't show up, or they run out of scalpels, or they find pigeons and snakes in the OR. It's not just me, because it's not just you. It's not just you fighting up 3 jobs to keep the lights on in a country where the natural gas free. It's so free, it used to be in the way. We used to have to burn it. It's that free. We burnt it for years. It was a nuisance. It's free. But when they found that they could monetize it, they sold the generation of electricity to their friends and their financiers. It's not only you catching your ass to understand how the Regulated Industries Commission trying to raise electricity while the government owes TNT and could wipe it off, could wipe off the debt by wiping off TNT's bill for natural gas. And nobody would have to face a raise in electricity. In fact, at these times, post-pandemic, they should be lowering stuff. But not these thieves, not these bandits, not these hooligans that you have in office, because your vote and your silence is keeping them there. So it's not only you catching your nenen with that light bill every month unnecessarily. It's not only you catching your tail to pay for food while the government refuses to make farmland available for farmers. We have 90,000 acres of farmland growing razor grass. We have 30,000 farmers growing nothing, trying to get land. And if you put those 30,000 farmers together with those 90,000 acres of land, farmland, you know what happened immediately? These are the things that would happen immediately. about $5 billion in foreign exchange will become available for you to buy your panty and bra online and not have to shop by Hadid and Abood. Immediately, about 60,000 jobs will be created, if not more. You see, it's 90,000 acres of labor-intensive food growing. We have a small farm, Pep Farms. We have 4 employees. We're not even on an acre. 90,000 acres then should hire at least 10 employees each. We don't have people for that. We had to import people to come and farm with us. Yeah, that's serious. Immediately, the price of food will go through the floor. Because immediately, the cost of food will be from the field to the farmer to you. You don't have to buy it from Massey. You don't have to buy it from Massey and True Value and JTA and any of the other places. Because a supermarket, the idea of a supermarket was created when the world started to live in cities 100 years ago. When the world started to live in cities 100 years ago, and people didn't have the time or the ability to go to the meat shop, the baker, the farmer. That's the 3 things you need, you know. Those are the 3 people to feed your family. The meat shop, the baker, the farm, the vendor, the market. That's it. You don't need a supermarket when 90% of the items sold in the market are so processed and preserved that every bite causes you cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stroke. Trinidad and Tobago has the highest in the Western world cases of heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, and stroke. So we spend $5 billion a year on public health to kill people. That's what we do. And farming could fix that. Farming could save foreign exchange. Farming could generate jobs. Farming could create an entrepreneurial class and downstream industries, preserve jams and jellies, pepper sauce, green seasoning. Not just here. I see Adam Abood selling garlic sauce and green seasoning in Massey. The average little farmer vendor wants to be able to put their thing cheek by jowl next to Adam Abood. But they can't, because the government want to take bribe and give farmland to friends to open mall after mall after mall after mall. During the retail apocalypse sweeping the world, Bed, Bath and Beyond, the biggest supplier of anything to do with sheets, towels, pillows, whatever, for the past 30 years, Chapter 11, bankruptcy. Why? Because as more and more generations come of age, they are doing more and more of their shopping online. The world is getting closer and closer to you clicking purchase now and a drone drop it by your house in a day. So we don't need more malls. We don't need 500 retail establishments like Syriana that used to be Twin City. Remember Twin City? It's now Syriana. It's now only drive up Twin City Boulevard and pass Syrian-owned mall after mall, Syrian-owned business after business. And I want to applaud all those Syrian businessmen. Of the 5,000 people that I come from in Trinidad, I am a half Syrian. It's only 5,000 away. Out of the 1.5 million people that live in Trinidad, it's only 5,000 away. But businessmen of Syrian descent controlling everything. Thank God Tony Sabga had the money to buy Macaneni. Thank God Peter George had the money to buy Linda's Bakery that's here 100 years. Thank God Richard Azar had the money to buy Bahadur Singh's West Mall. And it goes on and on and on. Thank God. And I wonder sometimes, I let my mind wander sometimes, where is this magical finance and credit available to these businessmen? And I wonder if that small percentage of the 5,000 Syrians that I come from have access to that much credit and finance to open a business. I have been applauding Mario Sabga Abood since he made the announcement to, whatever was the fellow's name who came here to do that show, and he said he was the Starbucks of the Caribbean, the man who killed himself. He said he's the Starbucks of the Caribbean, and he opened a store a month for 10 years, 120 stores in 10 years. And I wonder to myself, because I am half Syrian, so I'm a businessman too. And I'm a businessman my whole life, and I know that feeling of sitting in the bank, trying to get the credit, trying to get the finance. Because I want to tell you something, make no mistake. I watch the businesses that Mario Sabga open up and shut down in a month because they bust. And I know that if you didn't have finance, you'd be in the poorhouse. Finance makes it possible. And I want to know, when do we level the play field to make sure that every businessman in this country and every up-and-coming entrepreneur has access to that kind of finance too? I want to know what it will take to get every single person in business access to the foreign exchange Robert Haddad and Hadco have selling bulb in Barbados, because they have to be selling a billion bulb. Massey selling whatever it is they're selling to be able to not just keep their shelves full in Trinidad importing food, but they had so much foreign exchange. And I don't know what they do to generate it, but they are able to buy up grocery chains outside. You see, and I want to say this to you. When you see fellas like Gary Griffith, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to help. I tell them I want to help too.
Yeah.
I want to help too. But I don't just want to help by pointing out the low class and the people who are artificially poor in this country, because they're artificially poor. When you tell yourself, my child made Fatima, woohoo! You didn't tell yourself, the 50 children that make Bukarapo across the road, one of them coming to rob your child in 20 years. While you're clapping for your child's momentary victory, you don't have the situational awareness to realize that if your child succeeds at the expense of everybody else's poverty, you're putting your child in danger. That's what we're living in now. That's why we have crime. We don't need Gary to put on his camouflage panties and go and kick people in the face to stop crime, because that's what Gary knows how to stop crime. Rock them, throw them down, make them sing on the belly, and maybe that works for a piece of the thing. And maybe that's necessary for a piece of the thing. But it is not the only thing. Talk to people who actually know about crime, criminologists. And I hear Gary cuss and denigrate criminologists. But criminologists exist for a reason. Because they go beyond the kicking you in your face and tying you up on the ground and making you sing on your belly. There are things in this country that we do not speak about because there's nobody else in the space. When I look around at the play field I play in, there's no other politician here. They're either not bright enough or they're not brave enough. Everybody wants to make sure that they say just enough but stay right in their lane enough so that in case a position come available, like my partner who is the head, who is the chairman of National Flour Mills, who picked me up and take me for lunch across by Hezekiah Place, what's it called? Venimage on Arapita Avenue, to tell me how fed up he is of the country, how fed up he is of the PNM, and what I think he should do. I tell him, take your family and go. But he got a big work in Flour Mills, so he ain't fed up no more. Just right. And you see, and I want to tell you, and I cool with people getting pissed at me. I cool. You know why? Because at some point, everybody comes back to me, you know, and say, boy, it's hard to say this, but you were right.
Well, on that note there, Mr. Alexander, when we look at what...
Take a sip of water, please.
You could go ahead, yeah. I was drinking my water and minding my business while you were talking there. But on that note, exactly what you said there, you did a video that most definitely upset a lot of Trinidadians this weekend. I mean, it's trending all over TikTok. And it's exactly on the basis of what you were talking about with your Syrians brothers and sisters owning everything. You mind if we take a look?
You go through hard.
Let's take a look.
I taken my wet to show you something. Outside BP, And wherever this is, this used to be the Spanish gas company. I want you to see this building. I ain't working for them. This is my building. I ain't trying to get an ad for them. But I want you to see, this building is about a little bigger than Farris building. 1 Alexandra Place. This building bigger than 3 Alexandra Place. I want you to watch this building here. This is the Queen's Park Savannah. You could literally spit from that building on the Queen's Park Savannah. That is downtown. Hitting Dundonald Street and you're downtown. This building is 5 stories, rooftop, basement, with 9 storage in the basement. This building have independent air conditioning on every floor. This building have 2 elevators. This building have fire detection and sprinkler system. This building is for sale for $32 million. The government paying Faris Al-Rawi family $12 million a year. That means every 3 years, Nahus stuffing into his fat face the price of this building every 3 years. And that is how the money in this country is being stolen. When Faris lie down with Nahus' daughter and sticking the finger all in she ear and licking she on she chin, he just say, oh God, baby, we working hard. Eh? Look how much. The reason that video trends, now, for a minute, I don't want anybody to clip this and let this be the only thing that I've said, but I am capable of being very Obama. And I could speak like this for all of my videos. Still give you all of the information that I have, because I have a lot of information. And the people who sit behind the financiers in the pews in St. Finbar's Church would prefer that this is my tone, and I never use words like jackass and shithole, even though Paulo Kernahan using shithole now, and I think that we are a month away from the Archbishop calling the Prime Minister a jackass. But I could talk like this, and the videos will go nowhere. I talk like that, and the videos go viral, hundreds of thousands of views. And the purpose of it, I don't care about Faris. I don't care about Nahus, his wife. In fact, Faris' brother-in-law, Michael Nahus, was one of my dearest friends for all of my life. Grew up in Woodbrook, know him forever. Forever. And we're no longer friends because he is a beneficiary of the PNM government. He could justify that if it's not his building, that they would do it with another building, and I understand that. I live for a world where everybody say, none of us interested in doing that with you, Dr. Rowley. We want a better country where our families can live in peace with everybody. The rich, the poor, everybody could know that the country we live in is not a fiefdom, but it is now. Because if you could buy that building on Dare Street for $32 million, and it offers you more than Faris building that you're renting offers you, why would you rent a building from Faris for $36 million for 3 years? Why? Why would you do that? Since 2010, when Manning was no longer the Prime Minister, well, he was the Prime Minister until the elections, but he was no longer a member of Parliament, he signed a lease with the Nahus family that should have been challenged in court, except Chandra Sharma became the beneficiary through the UNC, and they thought, well, hey, if PNM could make our money off this building, we could make our money too. They did. So that building that stands like a gleaming silver middle finger to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, 1 Alexandra Place, that building has earned the Nahus family, by my estimation, in the past 13 years, work out, how much that would be?
Too much.
We could have bought that building in Dare Street or buildings like it 4 times. I'll tell you something else. Keith Rowley, Keith Scotland, Fitzgerald Hines, proud, strong black men, don't have the belly or the balls to go and stand up on Independence Square corner and Duncan Street at 8 o'clock at night by themselves. They will literally piss their pants. And I went and stood there by myself and did a video to show a building that used to be occupied by the Workers' Bank, and it was empty for 20 years. And I said to the country that this building, down on the corner of Duncan Street, needs, 5 floors, needs to be converted into a homework, supervision, training center, adult literacy, everything that you could think of that the people of East Port of Spain needs to help them develop. That's what it needs to be here. The acres that the Prime Minister stumbled upon on Nelson Street, that he wanted to build a panyard on, I said, put things there that people could create themselves, for opportunities for themselves, and develop themselves, and be able to present themselves as something more than just labor. What Eric Williams called drawers of water and hewers of wood. They could have been for themselves developed, and they could have created opportunities for themselves and their children and generational wealth to come. You see, bring me back on screen when you get a chance. I want to say this. My father, who I buried last year, 6 months ago, was a proud Syrian man. And I am proud of him and his culture. So when I talk about my family and what my family is getting away with in Trinidad, what the PNM and the UNC facilitate for kickbacks and bribes, when I go and stand up in Wildflower Park and point out that Aboud-owned Hawk Security does not have the authority to kick people out of that park, Richard Azar still has a camera pole connected to his house in that park that he has no authority for. He has no permission for, according to the Ministry of Agriculture. So it's something between him and the horticultural division round the corner from him, and the water sprinklers that connected to his house. But that is a public park, and you cannot just adopt and take over and secure to the point where you say nobody could use what ostensibly becomes your park. This is all the wrong roads we're on. Trinidad is a murderous place. They have people who, when they meet me, the first thing they say to me is, I light candles and pray for you every night. You are the bravest man in this country. You see, to strap on little camouflage and run in beatum with 500 police behind you, kicking down people's door, that is not courage. Courage is to speak the truth to power, even at the expense of your being able to get a cushy political job where you get blue lights and people to wipe your ass for you. I don't need those things. What I need, like we all do, is a better country. And we're not going to get it if we allow the people who facilitate this kind of criminal corruption and white-collar crime to continue uninterrupted. If we keep voting them into office, we need to understand that we're voting for that. When a man write me today and say, Mr. Alexander, I need your help. I'm not a member, but I like what you just say, and my radiator blow, and I don't know who else to turn to, and I have no friends, and I have no family, and I have no help, and I say, let me stop you there. Because I have about 500 people ahead of you with requests that if I get the money from, I'd help them first, because they're ahead of you, and I need you to understand. You have a member of parliament, go and sit down by them. Go and sit down there and tell them, you're telling me you're days away from suicide. Go and tell them. That's who drawing the $50 and $60 million a month. And that's who getting funded to make sure that you could stand up. They're your member of parliament. They represent you. That's who to go to. I live in a country that is broken by deliberate design. I live in a country where the UNC that is plotting to get into office is sitting with their financiers talking about what's left that they want to carve up. There was a UNC minister whose brother got the contract to install all the cat eyes throughout the entire country. Imagine the size of that contract, and imagine the size of the coincidence that you had the best bid as the brother of a government minister. It's not the PNM alone. If it was the PNM alone, I'd join the UNC tonight. But it's not. And I know beneficiaries who have HDC contracts to take care of HDC projects who live in Goodwood Park and Fairways. And to me, that's wrong, because the jobs that you're giving out is the jobs that you should be giving out to the people on the bottom rung, you do not need a school leaving certificate to fix a pavement. You don't need a university degree. So why is Terence D'Alsing's wife winning those contracts? Why are they even bidding for them? If there's such a thing as a bid at that level, why aren't all of those contracts for all of those sidewalks and pavements broken up into blocks of, say, 10 and given to small contractors? And the quality of the work that they do could be considered the pre-qualification for further jobs. So they will have a vested interest in putting down the best work they could. Why aren't we sending the money that the country has to spend down to the bottom? Why are we taking $500 million so the two P&M Oompa Loompas could spend $500 million opposite West Mall to build the Tanti 1% flyover that nobody in Diego Martin at this juncture needs? There's nowhere else to put more people. So there's not going to be more demand. The people who drive in the cars now, they're not going to be sitting down in 2 cars each. So there's no demand for it. The only thing that I could think of is that the P&M is trying to help more people get to West Mall easier. Because to come out of Diego Martin and PT Valley, because we closed the switchback, you have to drive to Mucurapo and come back down the road. A 300-meter inconvenience. But when you're driving a BMW or a Porsche Cayenne, it might be too much inconvenience for 300 meters. And I'm saying all of this as sarcastically as I'm saying it, because I don't dislike any people. I love all people, except those who are criminally minded. Now, you may be telling yourself that your wealth that you are amassing is not wrong because there's no law to stop it, and that's true. But your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather, who know the country that they started to build, that they were part of, when they were accepted with open arms, when the Syrians touched down in Trinidad and Tobago, they didn't have the language. They bounced up black and Indian people who had to take them in and buy from them. So now when I hear that you can't go and sell as a vendor on Henry Street and Charlotte Street because certain businessmen whose father and grandfather make the money they make to buy the building that they're in was doing the same damn thing, I can't be happy. I can't like that. I can't like the fact that you have a crime symposium in Trinidad and you start like it's the Big Bang Theory. We were going along normal and bang, crime start. That's not what happened. And you know that's not what happened. I'll tell you all the things in the order that I know they happen in reverse order. The 4% that you pay the police, that I don't know how you got their representatives to accept that when the police, men and women, don't accept it. I don't know how you got that, but you see, we live in a country where police can't protest. Because if police could have protest, they'd have walk off the job for that 4%. You see, 10 and 13 years, these people didn't get a raise in pay. And a lot of prices went up in that time. In the last year, the cost of food went up, inflation, 13%. Just in the last year. The last time they had a salary adjustment, a doubles was $2, a bread was $4. A doubles is now $6, and a bread is $15. The price of gas, according to the sneering idiot that is our Minister of Finance, went up 3 times. The price of gas that had a knock-on effect on everything else. So when you look at these people who you expect to put their lives in danger, to throw themselves between that bullet before it leaves the gun, and you tell them their lives not worth it, that their family's comfort not worth it, you sow the wind. You're going to reap the whirlwind. The money that we needed to pay those police officers, I did some quick math. Under this government, the $500 million that was spent on the Red House that we don't need. Because you put the Parliament back in the Red House. But you empty the towers that Manning built to thief money. Manning and his friends and his finances and his overseas builders built the waterfront to thief money. We will never make back the money from Hyatt, no matter what it gets. It can get kudos, it can get awards, they can love the carnival fetes, but it's $700,000 a room, and we will never make that money back. Before that money even come due, they'll tear down that building and build it over. Like the stadium we're rebuilding opposite movie town that nobody uses except for Marshall Fete. Before Marshall Fete, it was this other Fete that bus. So if you don't need it and the people not using it, why are you spending the money to fix it? So you move the parliament from the waterfront where it was and you bring it back to the Red House. $500 million later, that could have given every police officer $1,000 extra every month for the next 10 years. You give them $300 a month and expect them to think that this country cares about them. All the commissioners of police who silent are involved in furthering the idea that police officers' lives do not matter. And all the bullshit stunts they will stunt for you on TV6 and CNC3 until you show somebody that you appreciate them, all the talk in the world don't matter when you're facing medical bills in a country where the public health system is so piss poor, the Prime Minister runs from it. His heart in his chest busts open one night and they rush him from the Prime Minister's house, speed past the General Hospital, speed past St. Clair Medical Center to get him to West Shore. So a doctor there could put some piano wire and duct tape and put that back together. If the Prime Minister knows that our public health system is so much shit that you should risk adding death to injury to avoid it, why would you tell police officers, what was that? Why would you tell police officers that they should put themselves and their family through that? Why should you? Why should they? And that's the start, in reverse order, of what's wrong here. The guns that come into the country, the head of customs told the nation at a parliamentary joint select committee that they've not had a manpower increase in decades. They are underfunded, and they do not have the devices they need to do the job. And what have we done since? Nothing. The sneering jackass that you have as a Minister of Finance is telling the nation that scanners are coming from the port, for the port in 2024. Now I'll tell you something. I live in a world that 2 months into COVID-19, companies like Rover and Rolls-Royce was jamming out breathing devices for hospitals. They redirected their production. So I don't think it's that difficult in a world where scanners are manufactured for global sales, that we can't order one and have it here in 6 weeks. Why would the Minister of Finance tell you that it's coming here in 2024 and that the union leaders may not want to use it? All of that bullshit to stop you from understanding that the containers that come through the legitimate ports of call in this country are unstuffed, are not opened and examined on the port. Every businessman in Trinidad knows that for the price of an apple and an envelope, you could get a customs officer come by you and sign off. We ain't checking nothing. 40,000 illegal guns in this country. We don't manufacture guns here. They're not coming by sea, by pirogue. They're coming through the legitimate ports of call. The police know that. An ex-commissioner of police told us that he knows that, but nobody knew it enough to put 2 police officers outside the port so that anything leaving, you had to check it inside, we'll check it outside. We can't do that. That is too sophisticated. So 40,000 guns, the guns that killing people, the bullets that killing people, besides those that coming through the state, through their financier, ammunition importers, to the army that's somehow winding up back, killing Trinidadians. Forget those. Those are just a mystery. Like anything else that you don't understand, how army bullets killing people, how army bullets have been showing up at multiples of crime scenes, and up to now, the head of the army hasn't been brought before the parliament to explain why they can't keep their bullets in their guns in the base. But we don't manufacture guns here. So if we have 40,000 guns here, the Minister of National Security at a seminar in Aranguez that I attended last week Sunday said that there are, I can't remember if he said 725 or 275. Every time Fitzgerald Hines speaks, something in my mind tries to turn off paying attention to him. Because it's like a cancer to intelligent thinking. And I don't want to be infected by whatever he's spewing. But he said it's either 725 or 275. He said he knows that these are the entries into the country. And I ask, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if these maths matter. We pay 6,000 soldiers and 6,000 police and 4,000 Coast Guard and about 20,000 MTS employees. So that's 725. You try and tell me you can't secure those points? That we can't put up security, even if it is cameras, even if it is barbed wire, we can't put up nothing. We know that the thing's passing, but we can't stop it. I must be mad jackass big child. If Hawk Security could stop people from using Wildflower Park, give Hawk Security the job. Tell them the same way I was doing it in Wildflower, Edward Aboud, Wildflower the coast for me. And we could do that. It would be cheaper to pay Hawk Security, Edward Aboud, to Wildflower the coast than the $9 billion we spend every year on national security fighting the consequences of those guns. Because those guns exist, we have 50,000 security guards in this country. Because those guns and that level of mind-numbing poverty exists, crime pays at the level of massive industry built to just work around crime. I asked 20 years ago, why are you moving the criminals from the jail to the court? Why don't you just build the court in the jail? It's a magistrate, one person to move. And you don't need big trucks running people off the road. Why didn't we do that? We could have saved billions of dollars. You'd have get real justice on time. They'd have walk out their cell into the court. But they won't do that. Because that won't make them money. And crime in Trinidad pays. And I want you to hear me say these words over and over and over and over again. I want it etched into the ether. I want it in the cloud. I want them to forever know. Because I want other people, brave like me, to stand up and ask, what the hell are we doing? Voting for these corrupt criminal parties. And I had to say parties, plural. Because when Kamala was in office, they didn't interrupt justice on time. Same shit, different party. See what I'm showing you? Now I know some of y'all, your reflex action might be right now to say, yeah, but. I know, yeah, but. I'll tell you something. The UNC government could have ended Manning's lease with Nahu's True Faris the first week they were in office. Anand Ramlogan and Prakash Ramadar were parts of the legal team. Timothy Hamel-Smith. Come on. They could have fight Godzilla. Can't fight PNM and Faris. Faris is the jokiest lawyer in the world. Faris lose more case than the West Indies lose cricket match. So you try to tell me that if they wanted to, they couldn't fix it. You try to tell me the money that we spend, all the nonsense that we spend, and all the time that we're spending it, couldn't build 41 accident and emergency throughout the country so that the general hospital could be used for long stay cases and for those people who need to play carnival and need somewhere to put their mother and their father like they do. No? Or the places where your parents get Alzheimer's and you're going to abandon them there and pretend, I ain't know who that is, like they do. No. Trinidad is not a basket case accidentally. We don't have a crime problem that requires a crime symposium to bring Mia Motley and Ralph Gonzalez to pose for Rowley so Ralph Gonzalez could open his fat belly and talk a bag of shit about judges and women, the misogynistic sexism that came out of that man's mouth. Where were all the women's groups in this country? But that's a conversation for another time. We're very choosy and picky in the things that stir our ire. I want to tell you what should stir it. That there's a high probability that you, hearing my voice tonight, will die long before you should have because you live in Trinidad. You could get shot through a wall from a bullet aimed at somebody else, and you could die, like happened to that woman 3 weeks ago, while she was celebrating her birthday, no less. You could get in a car accident and die on the side of the road waiting for an ambulance because we don't have enough and we don't know how to do it. Or if you're lucky and the ambulance come and pick you up and take you to the hospital, you could die because we don't have enough doctors. Even though we had so many doctors that we paid scholarships for, that we didn't give jobs to, they were allowed to abandon the commitment to repay the scholarship and migrate all over the world and take the medical degrees that taxpayers paid for elsewhere because we want it to fail. The financiers of the government doesn't want the government growing food. The financiers of the government don't want all 20,000 to attend prestige schools. The financiers of the government doesn't want public health to work. The financiers of the government don't want water in your taps. All of those things I just spoke about, the financiers of the government don't want crime to solve. Because if you stop the guns coming into the country, if you stop it, and it's easy to stop. When I started in politics, we wanted to redirect. I met with Jimmy Fifi, a man who, together with the Chinese, quoted the government. This is how I came to find out what the maritime security wall was. I sat with him and heads of the defense force who explained to me how easily Trinidad could become a fortress in the sea. That nothing could come in unless it comes through the legitimate ports, and that would be the job of customs and immigration. And we've known that since Patrick was Prime Minister. We wanted to repurpose the barges, the oil barges that park up down the islands at $100,000 a month. Those oil barges, we wanted to repurpose them, clear them 3 miles out at sea, a ring around Trinidad and Tobago, and repurpose them to house customs, immigration, police, and a national security team that would include foreign senior officers to prevent the corrupting of our system. Because in Trinidad, you could spend the money to build that and put the people, and somebody pass and pop off some envelopes, and all of a sudden it's blind, or it's deaf, or it can't see, it can't hear, even if it's seen it way. And I want to tell you that all of these things could, and you need to know that it could do. So you have to decide for yourself if you want to live in a country where a stray bullet could kill your family, or if you want a real country. And then you have to look at me and say, you know, he not black, but I black, but I go vote for him because I want my country to work. I'm not voting for a black man because I'm looking for a man. I'm voting for him because I'm looking for a man who could run the country. Or if you're Indian and you look at me and say, well, the hair straight, but hair looking Indian enough. That's not the point. You're not supposed to vote for the man in the mirror. You're supposed to vote for the man who sounds like he has an idea as to how to fix it. And in this country of criminally corrupt white-collar bandits masquerading as leaders, people who are brave enough to say it to you. There are people who come on the threads and say, everybody has talked this. Nobody has ever talked this. Nobody's ever talked about the pandemic of fires Trinidad had, when our chief fire officer, the arson investigators, couldn't find the sources of all the buildings that burnt in Trinidad and Tobago when the recession started for insurance. We couldn't find that. But the same man who was making a booming trade in Trinidad doing that went to Philadelphia, and the first fire he set there, jail for him murders. I know that was my uncle. So I'll tell you, your country doesn't have to be a basket case. It doesn't have to be a shit show. I know there are 40,000 guns. I know the country I live in that for the price of a box of chicken and chips, you could get some suffering, stunting bandit to go and shoot somebody. I know all of that. And yet I still brave enough to come and tell you that the way the country is, everybody going to lose. Except those who making big money, no care that the country lose, because their mission is to make the money here at the expense of what could be paradise on earth convincingly, as David Rudder called it before he escaped to Canada. And God bless that decision. Because now that he has Parkinson's, Canada Health could make the transition a lot easier than having to lie down under a tent in St. James like Umbala and dead like a dog pissing on yourself. You see, that's Trinidad. And I love David Rudder's music. I think the man is a genius. But I want to tell him, my respect for you is ticking like a clock because I'm waiting to hear you write a song called Thank You, Canada. I want you to expose why you left and have the courage of your convictions that you had for all the years to say, this is why I had to pick up my family and go. All these years I spent abroad in the cold, longing to be home, chilling to the bone. That, Canada cold. Some of us had to go away to see we way, chilling to the bone. That, sing thank you, Canada. We didn't escape Trinidad to see we way and live in the cold to help Trinidad. We escaped because government after government after government showed that it didn't give a shit about people. Red, white, black, green, every shade in between. They didn't care. If you were willingly corrupt and corruptible, you could do business with the PNM and the UNC, and it's the same band of thieves working with both of them, financing both of them, all them junior ministers. Ask them the gifts they just get. Ask them. So you have crime symposium, or do we go and blow the dust off the maritime security wall, which would have required $1 billion to repurpose those things? Now, there's technology like drones. You don't have to create anything other than a literal radar line in the sea. That's all. And any the spawn to you could sink them from above the clouds. They wouldn't even know when the kill command is launched. That's how they do it in America. Try and go past the line in the sea. And don't stop now. And don't you are. And see how since 9/11, except the same. We still go back. Tell the Americans, always stop the guns like stop the coke. Because this round government coke still bastard. So what he talking about? He don't read Guardian. He don't read Where's the thing? And if you stop it and the human the guns will stop. And if the guns stop, then the police could pick up the guns that here. And then people are to come and hold you up with slingshot. And that's it. And then we have to look at the and you need a crime symposium to talk about the poverty. You need an education symposium to tell you why, if all the children leave SEA, do the same SEA, why they're taking different routes, different schools have different books, why different schools have different funding, why different schools have different levels of teacher, why different schools have different standard. Why? Why all our schools aren't, I think I'm running out of battery. Oh, I broke my mic. Sorry. I have 3 mics on me. I don't think I have room for this third one. Yeah. Try and put it here. What if you'd like to WhatsApp? My number is 682-2110. I'll read it on the air without your name. Unless you say to me, say my name. I'm saying 751-9504. This the Commission of Inquiry the system. This is a Commission of Inquiry into the banking sector. A Commission of Inquiry into the narcotics trade.
Hold on, Phillip. I'm really trying to understand how you broke 3 microphones. 3 microphones you broke today.
Okay, nothing there.
How is this possible? You can, they're hearing you through that. Like, yeah, for sure.
Four mics. Change the shirt to four mics. One mic running through my shirt, through my. I want to tell you this, and believe you, I want to tell you that if you flush the drug in this, and I'm saying to you that the country is being bought up around you. Canada Park, you hear it? Yeah. This would be better. Canada Park, I think January 2023. I just want to be able to give a thumbs up that is better.
Yeah, it's.
Google it. You hear me? And us being able to buy up properties in Canada because they're trying to protect Canada for Canadians. And you have to understand that people with endless money could buy your country out from under you. In Trinidad, and this is what the Progressive Empowerment Party proposes, unless you are a registered renter slash landlord, and there will be terms and conditions under which you could be a registered renter slash landlord to protect renters. We propose that on your primary residence, 0% property tax. Zero. Not a cent. Your primary residence, you've paid tax at least 4 times. You pay the income tax to work to make the money. You pay the stamp duty to buy the land and the property. You pay the import duty on the material that you use to build the house. And you pay value added tax. That's enough tax on your primary residence. And we believe that the average person's primary residence should attract 0 property tax forever. Your second property that is in your name will apply a 5% tax. Your third property, a 10% tax. Your fourth property, a 15% tax per annum. Your fifth property, you're now paying 20% of the value of the property to the state every year. So that in 5 years, every 5 years, you'd pay in taxes to the state the value of the property of your fifth home. And that is a way to protect real estate in the country from being bought up with people who have endless money. Now those people hearing that and panicking and sending fake profiles and paying people to attack Phillip on social media, because these solutions that we propose will fix Trinidad and Tobago at the expense to the greedy guts and the corrupt and those who have money to hide and hiding it in real estate. Because we need the cost of homes to come down. I didn't hear that in the symposium, but the science says in countries where home ownership is high, the family unit stays together and crime is low. There's a saying, success leaves clues. We didn't have to bring Ralph Gonzalez and Mia Motley and the head of Bahamas and the rest of them to stunt and take a picture with Rowley. I don't know what's going on in Jamaica. I don't know what's going on in Guyana. But I know what's going on in Trinidad. People can't afford to live. And we've sent the working poor into a spiral. They cannot, the hyperinflation caused before there was any pandemic, when the world had 4 straight years of economic increase, Trinidad was in negative. And the PNM and the UNC before have looted this country to the point where we've created an underclass of people who have no hope. Who, if they get a gun, they come in to commit a crime. They're not even thinking about it. But we've also created a class of church-going people who will jump your wall and break your window. Because, Father in heaven, forgive me, I had to feed my children. Man must survive. We, the third wealthiest nation in the Western world, created a class of people that go into church and pray to God and know that theft and stealing is a sin, but have no choice. We've left them no choice. When people message me and tell me the conditions they're living under, when people message me and tell me about National Insurance Board giving them a runaround, a deliberate runaround, sending them for documents that time sensitive, so that by the time that you take to get all the 6 documents that you need, the first one expire and you start the whole system over. We've ruined people's lives just so that some could be rich. And that's wrong. And you need to vote a government into office to say, that's it, that's enough, turn it back. Houses, like food and water, are essential. You wouldn't allow one person, well, you shouldn't allow one person to buy up all the food. You wouldn't allow, or you shouldn't allow one person to control all the water. These are things that are essential. You could control all the tulum. You know what I mean? You could control all the fire hydrants. I want to look for things that in my mind are saying these things, but you can control the tables and the chairs, you can control the jockey shorts and the panties, we'll go commando. But let people be able to live and to eat and to mind their families, education, public health. These are essential things. And none of these things made it to your symposium. You brought a bunch of stunt artists, you bring the owner of Sabga Media in your symposium so he could take a picture with you, so he could publish a picture of himself in the media and show each other and say, look how pretty daddy is. But that doesn't help the country. We need a country where the government has an interest in all of the people. The Progressive Empowerment Party says the well-being of every citizen is the function, purpose, and reason for government. And if you are not interested in the well-being of the vagrant outside the cathedral, covering himself in his own feces, you shouldn't be prime minister. If all you could do is name, blame, and shame, you shouldn't be prime minister or opposition leader or anything political for that matter. Because politics is about people. And you have to understand that your job is not to embarrass people for where they are. Your job is to lift them up. I live in a country where a place that used to abuse little boys, St. Michael Home for Boys, is now going to be a 1% housing development. And a very expensive wall went up on a property that is now empty, where little boys could have been heard screaming in the night as they were abused by the handlers paid by the state. We've shut down St. Anne's Medical Facility, not because we've run out of people with mental illness, but because people have identified, looking down on the St. Anne's Hospital from up on Chancellor Hill, that this could make a nice one Woodbrook Place. And that's Trinidad for you. Bullshit. Served. You can have as much as you want. But truth, you can't get truth. You can't get truth in your media. You can't get truth in your politics. And because you can't get truth, lies have spawned hate. And hate has metastasized to evil. And that evil is not seeing you anymore as a crime of opportunity, but seeing you as an enemy. People are killing people in this country now without fear, without regard for anything. They don't afraid God, they don't afraid Gary, they don't afraid nothing. And yeah, you could go out there and get them bullet for bullet. That's not how you fix a country. The government's job is to create hope and opportunity for everybody. There are people in Trinidad and Tobago. This man going and cuss me for saying his name on this live. But there's a gentleman by the name of Gregory Sloan Seal, who did so much for the Ministry of National Security in the redevelopment of the hotspots. He came up with a plan to cool the hotspots, and he showed where the places are in this country. Gregory Sloan Seal, he gave years, decades of his life. All of us was in school together, me, Gary, Gregory. All of us was in the same St. Mary's College. But Gregory moved on to the private sector because all of we getting a little gray, and he have a family to leave something for when he shuffle off the mortal coil. But Gregory Sloan Seal should be given a senior ministry with the responsibility to help undo poverty and give him a budget. He's shown himself over the decades to be committed to the people and the country. He's one of those people that you could trust with a budget and tell him, I want you to find all the hotspots and cool them down and turn them around and tell me what we need to make Beetham Westmoreland. What does Beetham not have that Westmoreland has? So we could level the play field a little bit so that Beetham people not looking to rob Westmoreland's people. They have their own. But we live in a country where the government, instead of using that 5-story building that used to be the Workers' Bank to make your homework supervision and adult education possible, are in the process of tearing it down. They're so bad-minded and spiteful, like Rohan said, and when he went to pick up my barrels at Gandhi Village roundabout and crush them, paint them white to hide them, the barrel thief that he is. When I found them hidden in the bush in Trinidad, 5 hours off the highway, he sent his excavator to crush them to prove a point. Same government, buy brand new 1-inch plywood to make a wall, hundreds of thousands of dollars to demolish the building. To say to Trinidad and Tobago, nobody ain't coming to rescue you. We, the PNM, will make sure that suffering is all you know. And when you need to eat, come and kiss my foot. That's the PNM. That's the PNM. The $500 million they spent renovating the Red House means they're spending $1 billion building Balize House. Because the Red House was there. Balize House building from scratch. How come we're not talking about that? Where does a political party like the PNM get the money to build Balize House? Who owns the property? I think that the deed said that it was owned by the Bermudez family of Kissbread and Bermudez Biscuits. Do they still own it? Are they building a Balize House for Rowley? Or did Rowley get funding to build Balize House on Bermudez land? Did Bermudez donate the land to the PNM? A political party has no legal standing in the country, so it cannot own property. So to what did it donate the land? And in whose name were the loans made or the donations made? And in whose name is Balize House now? You see, if you're not prepared to ask those questions because you don't care, because that's your side, then your country going to sink. Both sides of the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean. Trinidad going to be like that. The Indian side, the African side, the Syrian side, going to be in Miami or London. The Chinese side, Miami or London. All the people who making money, them not here for when they hit the bottom. If you don't want this to be your country, my number is 682-2110. I want 1.4 million of us to come out in the road. I want 1.4 million of us to stand up together. No cussing, no pelting, no screaming. Just stand up. Stand up together. Because you see, when you show the people in office that you who own the office and you who own the salary, you who own the taxes, prepare to stand up, they will all of a sudden remember why they're in office and start to do their job. Yeah, they're going to want to beat up a little bit and send their highly paid thugs to do us something for a while. But 1.4 million of us is a different number to 10. And we need to stand together, all of us, to say the way the country is run now is wrong. You can't have your friends and financiers own the media and publish your drivel. You can't use crime as a reason to spend hundreds of millions of taxpayers' dollars to clink glasses and eat fancy food in Hyatt and accomplish nothing. You cannot do that while people continue to die and have stunt artists like Gary saying he wants to come and fix it. The fix for crime in Trinidad and Tobago starts with the poverty and the police. If you are not dealing with those two things, if you're not creating hope and opportunity at the bottom rung and rewarding good and decent law-abiding police officers, there are two sides to that coin, you know. And all the police know that a progressive empowerment party government would immediately institute an internal affairs bureau whose job it is to prosecute rogue and criminal police, not send them up the ladder, prosecute them. So that the good and decent law-abiding police could have a life. When we tell you, shut down the borders so no new guns could come in, I want to pay police officers $1,000 cash bounty for every gun that you bring in. Just bring it off the street. look your money, we register it, we fire the 3 bullets in the forensic center, and we melt it down live on camera so people could see. That gun can't go back out and come back in for the next 1,000. Because that's how Trinidaders do everything. We could corrupt salt. So at this point, I want to say to you, there is nothing wrong in this country, Trinidad and Tobago, including crime. It cannot fix, and fix quickly, and fix easily. We just have to want it. David? You have the dad. Oh, sorry. I called on David to make a comment, and he just told me I have all the microphones. I could just want to check and see if we have any WhatsApps at all. People saying still problems with the audio. We're having mic problems. Well, I want to say this to all of you who are watching and all of you who are going to watch after. This is why we need your help financially. And you don't have to send me money. You can reach out to David or to Satish Ramsaran at 796. Satish Ramsaran number is 796-8172. David number is 7519504. We need things like microphones and cameras. And you could buy it where you live and send it to us. Because we're doing our media, our full media ourselves. And you could help us do that and not be beholden to any road surfacing company that after we get in office could come and say, well, you know, I give all of the camera and I give all of the microphone, so all that give me contract. We don't want that. We want to be beholden to the people. We say we are of the people, by the people, for the people. And we're asking, especially to those good and decent, I want to say to Trinidad again, I love all my Trinidad and Tobago people. That's the only reason why I would still be doing this. But I want to say to the foreign-based Trinis, you all are a beacon of hope. The fact that you all exist and still care about this country the way you do, because a lot of what we do and have been able to do is because of the foreign-based Trinis. You all have been the pillars that have upheld the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I will never forget. A lady called me today from New York, and she said to me, I just love what you're doing. I want to come home, but I can't come home till you're prime minister, till you are in office, till you can fix it. And I want to tell you that what I do here in New York City, I want to come and do it in Trinidad for my country for free. And they have about 1 million Chinese outside willing to come. My brother is the best. He's the best in his field, epidemiology in the world. We have people in Trinidadians and Tobagonians who have left these shores and went on to become the best in the world. There's a young girl who I talk about all the time. She's not a young girl anymore. She's a full woman who used to be in Trinidad. The only job she could have get was to be a promo girl for cigarettes and alcohol and feds. Go to foreign land, get to put herself back through school, and did criminology. And the day they did the exam, she came first. Not in the school, not in the state, not in the university, not in the country, in the entire world. A Trini. Yeah? There are 1 million good and decent foreign-based Trinis all around this world. And I want to let you know that as we rely on you now to help us see it through to elections, we will rely on you after to come back home, help us fix it. Now, I'm appealing to you. We need help financially. You could WhatsApp Felicia Hole at 769-4590. Anybody who's having any difficulty getting through to anybody, my number is forever 682-2110. 682-2110. And if you would like to help us with anything, you could WhatsApp me and I'll pass you on to the relevant person. But we need your help. And yeah, we need microphones, we need audio, we need help with cameras as we're expanding the studio. But as we have nothing else to say on this issue, I want to bring it to a close and tell you this is the 3rd live video. Yeah. What do you want to do? Give you one? You can come out here, no?
Then who will end?
That's true. So I want to say that the intention is to expand it to this show, to hear, to guests, to call-ins, to all of those things. And we're building today, inch by inch, proudly, transparently, without any arrangement with anybody. We've had to tell people, listen, the only promise we could make you is a better Trinidad and Tobago. If you need anything else after that, wrong party. Yeah? This is the third live video in a row, 3 nights in a row. And it has started back because we're launching our own streaming system very soon and within the next couple of days or at least weeks. So stand by for that. But keep telling people that nighttime is pep time and that you can expect that Phillip Edward Alexander would come on at some point. And if you miss me in the night, you could catch me in the morning and you can watch it as a rerun. And if you catch this as a rerun and you got to hear, I want you to hear me ask again. If it is in your power to help us financially, you've seen what I have done for decades for this country for free. Other people tell you that they've served this country. Serving this country for a salary is great. Serving this country for decades at your own expense, out of love of people and country, that's who I am. I saw an ad today, saving one person makes you a hero. Saving 1,000 makes you a nurse. And I loved that concept of thinking. We need to get back to people service. That's who we were. We used to boast about Trinidad and Tobago being the best country in the world for the people. And it still is. And it could be better. We could fix it. If you want a better country, join the Progressive Empowerment Party. Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.
This is a call to the nation.
You're frightened, man.
One by one, let's do it together. Let's be the change we want to see. Standing strong to any weather. Follow the light of the PEP. Cause we could build a better place for every creed and every race. Together we could triumph over anything we face. So one by one, 2 by 2, the PEP, we're here for you. Bit by bit, one people under one flag. So come on, let me fix it. We go fix it. Build a better TNT. Phillip, we go fix it. We go fix it. Because we vote in PEP. Come on, let me fix it. We go fix it. It's time for a change indeed. Phillip, we go fix it. We go fix it. Because we vote in PEP. Twin Islands, let's move together in unity. We can achieve right the wrongs. We do it together. Let's build a place where we could truly be. Moving together, hand in hand. One people under one God. We can build a better future for our children. So one by one, 2 by 2, the PEP will care for you. Bit by bit, let's build a better TNT. So come on, let me fix it. We go fix it. Build a better TNT. Phillip, we go fix it. We go fix it. Because we vote in PEP. Come on, let me fix it. We go fix it. It's time for a change indeed. Phillip, we go fix it. We go fix it. Because we vote in PEP. So one by one, 2 by 2, the PEP, we're here for you.